better business, and a better life begin here. Welcome to Business is Art on TrueChat with author and business consultant, John Umstead.
Thank you for tuning in today. I'm John Umstead. We're going to be continuing and building on a conversation actually that we started a couple of weeks ago when Marianne Bailey was our guest. She is the founder of a business called Catalog U. And in that episode, we talked about how it's important to really have a good inventory of your contents in your business or at home. Because if something should happen, an insurable event occurs, it's just a good idea to know what the heck you had in there, what got lost, what got ruined, what got stolen. And so we talked about that and other ways to protect your business. We're going to build on that today and look at things from an insurance angle. And it's kind of exciting because we're welcoming back to the show, back to the TrueChat studio, one of the co-founders of TrueChat, former show host and former producer of the Business is Art show, Mr. Camden Pierce. Camden, welcome back.
Hello. It is me.
Now, I have to say something. Just before we started recording, Camden said that I didn't appear to be too excited about today's show. And I thought, well, I don't know what that's all about. And then we talked about maybe we should have some beer here. We don't have any. So I'm sorry. I will try to be.
It's okay. It's okay. I honestly, I remembered you a little cheerier, but to get on to nothing from that. All right. He almost spit out his coffee, but you couldn't see that. We're just on the radio here. I did listen to that Catalog U episode though, and that was awesome.
Was it?
Like seriously, the product is.
Oh yeah.
Oh well, obviously I'm not talking about the podcast.
Yeah.
Give me a break. But the product and the podcast
I was about to say
very
thank you,
good.
but now I'm something else that ends with you.
Right?
Yeah.
No, the podcast was also great, and you should definitely check it out. But it was a sweet product, and it really does tie into insurance.
It does. And, something, I don't think I mentioned it during that episode, but, in my consulting, my esteemed consulting career, I spent about a year and a half contracted as the chief operating officer for a company that, it was similar to Catalog U, except it was all external. So it was the exterior, the siding, the roofing, and that kind of thing of apartment communities and condo communities, but basically for the same purpose, get a really well documented set of files and information and photos on the current condition. And then when something happens, then you've got that. So theoretically, it makes your claim go through a lot easier. So any part of what you're looking at, getting that good, solid record of what you have and its existing condition is just a good idea.
Big, scary, the insurance company, this big dark creature that decides whether you get money or not. One of the only things it cares about is whether or not you've documented what you have. So it really is. They've got it spot on. That's really is exactly what gets you to your full coverage point.
And like we talked about on that episode, not to keep going back to it, but it is not the claims adjuster's responsibility to make sure that every single stone is unturned, right? They're looking for the obvious, and they're not going the extra mile to, hey, let's see what else we can find this cover. That's just not their job,
right? Then they have other sadly, you're not their only concern.
Right. You are responsible for yourself.
Bingo.
Hey, before we get into this episode any further though, I would like to, invite listeners to connect with me. Go out to Twitter. You can find me at John Umstead. You can find me on LinkedIn really easily. You can go out to my website, plancanvas.net. That's PLANCANVAS.net. Find out a little bit about my consulting work and the Plan Canvas software. I'd love to hear from you. Please go check it out and connect with me, and we'll see what we can do together. All right. So Camden, let's get to this episode, because like I said, we're going to be talking about, things from the insurance angle. And, I mentioned you as a co-founder of TrueChat, former show host, former producer of Business is Art show, and, a not an infrequent guest on, the Business is Art show.
I would agree.
But now you're off doing other things, and so let's hear about that.
Right. Well, big spoiler, since the episode is about insurance, I have to be doing something in that realm now, right? Well, I guess I didn't have to be when I was guesting on the show back in the day. But yes, I'm an insurance agent now here in Urbana, Ohio. I'm an independent agent, so I sell lots of different companies. I'm not stuck to just one. And I sell everything: auto, home, commercial, life, health. You name it, I can sell it. So it's been a big 8-month information cram session for me. So I will do my best to regurgitate it all over the table for you.
All right, good deal. Well, hey, just for our listeners that I know are really interested in insurance, hey, stick around, because one of the things that I like to say on this show is your business structure, your team needs to include an attorney, a tax accountant, and an insurance agent. You've got to have those, and hopefully a consultant such as myself. You can reach me at 937-925-5550. But you mentioned being an independent agent, and in case people aren't aware, there are captive agents, and they sell insurance for a single company. They typically are actually employees of that company. And then there are independents such as Camden, who are not employees of any insurance company. They work in or for or own an insurance agency and sell multiple lines of insurance with multiple companies, right?
Right. The way you can think about it, State Farm is one of the biggest captive companies that you can think of.
Yeah.
Nationwide actually was one, but we just found out they're actually moving everyone to an independent structure there with all of their agents. So that will be an interesting move for them.
Yeah,
but State Farm is really the big one that is still captive. You can only sell for them if you're selling for them.
We're going to be talking about how you can protect your business, and we're going to be doing it from an insurance perspective. We know what topic we're covering, but Camden's got certainly a lot of thoughts, and so we're going to just kind of go through some things and talk about how folks can prepare or better protect themselves, particularly on the business side. So with that, I've done a whole lot of talking and not really let you do too much of your own. You want to tell us a little bit about your journey to becoming an agent?
Yeah, well, it's kind of a short one, but we'll go with it. I was working at TrueChat until I don't even remember. But probably about a year ago. Then I got this wonderful job that I seriously do not regret as Pizza Hut delivery guy. And I loved it. Seriously, I loved it. Easiest job I've ever had. Some of the best money per hour I've ever made, when I had good tip days, obviously. And it was great. But man, was it not enough for this old thing up here that we call a brain, because it was just very monotonous. So I eventually was reaching out to people here in Urbana. I had some contacts. I'd actually let my mother know that I was looking for a gig and to look around a little bit. And lo and behold, Martin Insurance, who I work for here right on Main Street, had an opening. They had somebody that was they were parting ways with, and I was just so happened to be looking for a job, and I have sales experience with TrueChat, obviously not selling person to person, but to those big scary corporations we were talking about earlier, and it was just kind of a good fit.
Yeah.
So they needed some young blood. They didn't have a ton of connections in that age group, so I helped them there. And it was just kind of a perfect fit.
Yeah.
They needed somebody, and they needed somebody young who knew people in Urbana, and I checked all the boxes.
Had you given any thought to insurance before that opportunity arose?
No, not really, but I had given thought to getting a sales gig, getting something in that realm. Just because I know it's a good way to make a good amount of money. Just as a young guy trying to buy a house here, take some capital to get that stuff done.
Yeah.
But not insurance specifically. And I actually went to, this is kind of funny. Erie Insurance is our main company that we sell, at Martin Insurance. And so I've been up to Erie, Pennsylvania, had some training there, and 95% of the people, I think only one person in my whole training group said, yeah, I wanted to get into insurance. Everybody else was, well, I was doing this, and somebody said, hey, we have an opening for an agent. If you want to get, some hours in. A lot of moms do it for different agencies where it's only like a 20 hour gig where you can go in for their busy hours and then go back. I mean, it is one of those jobs where as an insurance agent, you're kind of your own, especially the way I do it as an independent agent. I make my own commission, so I better get out and freaking sell something. Mm-hmm. And if I'm not making any money. And that's how almost every insurance agent, I've talked to, it works. And that's the big thing is, not everybody wants to do insurance, but once they get into it, they really kind of like it. It's not the most difficult thing in the world to sell because everybody needs it. So yeah.
Yeah, it's I think you're right. I think it's one of those professions that a lot of people just don't think about and fall into for one reason or another, unless it's a family. My dad was an insurance agent, my grandfather was, and now I am. Carrying on. That
was the one person who in our group who didn't just stumble onto insurance. Yeah. They were like, "Oh, Dad's an agent." So
it's like morticians. My great grandfather opened up this place, and everybody. So yeah, it's kind of that same way. You follow the family line, or you fall into it. But I do want to say this before we get deep in, any deeper into anything, and that's a lot of people. You kind of alluded to it. A lot of people have this negative feeling about insurance. Attorneys and insurance are the devil. Right? They're just out to screw everyone. And it's like anything else. There are bad actors in every profession, but I am someone who. I'm a firm believer in insurance. I worked for a large insurance company, and then I worked for or ran a business that provided outsourced services to multiple insurance companies. So I've got a fairly deep background in certain types of insurance, and it literally can be a lifesaver. I mean, it is an absolute necessity, and could some people be treated more fairly at given times? Sure. But kind of going back to what we started with, you kind of are the master of your own domain. You've got to be responsible for yourself as well. And a lot of times when people are claiming an insurance company really screwed them over, they probably screwed themselves over in some way or another.
Right. Or unknowingly was the thing I was going. The biggest thing we get in our office is really uneducation about insurance. You would not imagine in the 8 months I've been there, the amount of people that think a policy covers something, and all it takes me is 5 seconds to look and say, that's not what this is covering you for. And really, it is about having a great agent. The reason, I would imagine, John says you have to have an agent on your team is so you can trust what they're saying to you. And it's not this big cynical business world where it's like, don't trust anybody. But with insurance, like I said, lots of people fall into it. It's kind of their gig to make some money. You kind of also need to confirm that this person knows what they're doing.
Yeah.
And I've seen that more in the insurance business, not to scare any of you, than I have in a lot of things. Uh-huh. Just people who are not all the way up to speed about what their coverages do. All
right. Hey, let's take a really quick break here and ask folks to come and join our discussion. You can find TrueChat on social media at TrueChat.org. That's TrueChat.org, or reach out to me on Twitter at John Umstead. And I'd love to hear from you. Love to hear what you think of this show, past shows, any future shows you might like to talk about, or anything else that's on your mind. Heck, you can talk about Big Brother Celebrity Edition if you'd like. So Celebrity Big Brother going on right now, as a matter of fact.
How's it going?
So, let's see.
Sounds like you're an avid fan.
I don't want to spoil anything for anybody.
I suppose so.
But
yeah, then forget about me.
The one thing that has shocked me this season, though, is Lolo Jones is really fiery. And that's about the nicest way I can say it.
Huh.
She's intense.
Well, you have gotten me interested. That's for sure.
But anyways, so yeah, reach out. Let's hear from you. All right. So we've talked about a lot of fodder. Let's get into something a little bit more deeply. What would you like to talk about here?
Anything works for me. Around here, normally what I'm selling, just to give you my personal, I sell a lot of business insurance at Erie, so that's where I'm going to get a lot of my examples from, just to let you, the audience, know. What I sell a lot around here is liability to, plumbers and painters and stuff like that. And you'll get a lot of that anywhere you are. Most places will force you to carry that liability if you're a business like that. But one of the big challenges we have with that type of business is a lot of people get coverage for just their liability in case they mess up someone's house, but don't get any coverage for tools, don't get any coverage for their truck, because not a lot of people know, but some of that stuff is a different policy. Especially at Erie, you're going to be looking at your commercial auto and your liability, plus any buildings in this one policy, and then your auto in the other. So that's kind of the thing I look at selling the most.
Okay. So a couple of questions relative to that. Let's say I'm starting a business, and so I don't really exist yet. I'm kind of pre-launched and just getting ready to open up the doors. Do I need insurance? Do I need commercial insurance? At what point do I need insurance, I guess, is maybe a better question.
Well, it depends on what you're insuring. Liability insurance, and what that means is insurance for actions you are liable for. Now, I could go over the definition of liable with you for 8 hours, but we won't do that.
No, please.
Yeah. Oh, well, good deal. That I'd say the first day you do anything, first day you break ground with this business, you need to have liability insurance. Now, on your property you may own, on your tools you may be buying, I mean, this is stuff you need to cover as soon as you buy it, whether or not you're conducting business or not. Mm-hmm. Because if you're looking to start a business and you're incorporated or you have your LLC going and you're buying things with your business card, that's when it gets into the sticky situation of it's not covered by your home policy. You're technically conducting business on your premises, or at least storing business items on your premises. So with that kind of stuff, you're going to want to be looking, especially if you're buying it with business accounts, to get that stuff before you start buying anything and storing things.
Yeah.
Okay. So that's kind of the difference there of when you want to be looking for certain things.
Since you mentioned liability insurance, I'll carry that one a little bit forward. So I'm an independent. I have liability coverage or insurance, and that was something I did immediately when I started, and it was really just exactly what you said. In case I screw something up, I'm being trusted with things, including information. And, if I should accidentally, either through my own fault or no fault of my own, let loose some confidential information, then, am I protected through liability insurance am I protected, I guess, is the question.
Well, what you actually did there is there's two types of liability. One being general liability, which covers you for if you're mowing and a rock goes through somebody's window. But with a business I'm actually quoting right now, I had to dig for what's called professional liability for their specific business type. That's the kind of thing you can get in trouble for doing, what we're doing right here, yakking, doing what you said, sharing information you shouldn't have shared, even unknowingly. And some places, Erie being one of them, don't do professional liability on certain lines of business, especially ones like this, where it's much more difficult to pin down exactly, okay, are you liable for this? It's just words. There's more court cases with it. So that's why you see that in the insurance world. But that's the beauty of being an independent, right? Is I can go to another company, grab just that liability, and then bring the rest of it with the Erie policy. Okay,
so I have a couple of follow-on questions around freelancing and that sort of thing. But first, I want to remind our listeners that, all podcasts on our network pursue a common goal. TrueChat's mission is to educate people by providing honest, open, and respectful conversations. And if you have any ethical concerns with today's episode, please email ethics@truechat.org. Again, that's ethics@truechat.org. And today we're continuing really a conversation that we started a couple of weeks ago with another guest, all about protecting your business. This time we're talking about it from an insurance perspective with Camden Pierce, licensed insurance agent extraordinaire. So Camden, let me ask you another question. So, I'm one, but there are many companies out there that have softwares or intellectual property or IP that it's not tangible. It's got value, but you can't hold it in your hands. You can't take a picture of it. It just exists out there in the ether. Are those types of businesses insurable?
My easy answer is everything's insurable if you can find a company that will do it for you. I know we don't mess with any of that at our specific business. I mean, I would have to imagine it would be insurable. I just sadly have no idea how you would insure it. Yeah, it's not what we do.
Yeah. But I think you're right. The general answer is yes. Everything is insurable. You just have to find. That's why independent. That's one of the values that independent agents bring to the table, because they can reach out across multiple companies that have differing and differentiated products, whereas captive, they've got the one ship, right, and one set of products that they can offer.
And we for what we consider, I would consider that a surplus lines type of insurance, where and what that means for the non insurance logo people. It's pretty much just a line of insurance that is unique, odd, that not, your State Farm isn't putting commercials on to try and get you to buy those kinds of things. And we might be able to find it. The way we get our surplus lines coverage at Martin Insurance is we actually have a company that is like, it's not a holding company. It's kind of just an aggregate where we ask them, hey, can you do this thing for us? And then they ask their 20 to 30 to 40 companies, hey, can any of you do this? So I guess I've just never asked. So we might be able to. Yeah. Before I say we officially cannot do it and my boss gets on me.
All right. Well, we can edit that out if you'd like.
No thanks.
Okay. Again, let's say I am a startup, or maybe I've got a small business that's been around for a while, but it's a small business. Money's tight. How affordable is insurance? What's my return on that investment in insurance?
Your ROI on insurance is being able to sleep at night, is one of the biggest ones. And I know, everybody will tell you that, and what's that worth? And it's worth whatever it's worth to you. Yeah. That's the beauty of insurance truly is whatever you want to cover, whatever worth it has, as long as, an insurance agent can put their hands on it and whatever company you're going with, we'll cover it. That rock and roll, do it to it. So, I'm sorry, I guess, did I answer your question or not really?
Well, part of it, on the ROI,
yeah, what's the second
peace of mind. The other part of it was how affordable is it? Let's take it from this perspective. So, anybody that drives knows how much their auto insurance is. If you have health coverage, you probably have a pretty good idea how much that insurance is. So relatively speaking, comparatively speaking to other types of insurance that, probably most people are familiar with, how affordable is commercial insurance or business or insurance for your business?
So I would say most of our liability policies we sell are called 5-star. So if I say that, it pretty much means general liability for a contractor. So our 5-stars, run around $675 a year. So I don't really have a calculator in front of me, but I'd say $62 a year to cover yourself in case you cause $1 million, and that's for $1 million in coverage. Yeah. About 62, 63, 65 a month. And it's covering you for up to $1 million per occurrence and $2 million for the whole year. And that's our normal base, what we sell people. Yeah. Nothing added to it, just your liability. And I'd say that's worth it. Now, if you have 10,000 in tools and I can sell you that coverage for, say, $200 more on that policy, you kind of got to look at it where, okay, and a total price with an insurance policy is one of the most misleading things on the planet. You have to look at at your itemized receipt, pretty much is what you should request from your insurance agent, and see exactly what coverages you're paying for, because, sometimes, and it may not be the fault of their own, they could have, coverages that do the same thing but overlap. And that's where that value kind of starts to skyrocket on people, and the other way is if you get accidents. At some point I've had to tell customers this, it's not affordable for you to have insurance.
Mm-hmm.
I can't sell you a policy that you can afford because their record's so bad.
Mm-hmm.
And it's the same way with business insurance. It's just claims and not, I hit somebody trying to get out of, McDonald's or whatever.
Yeah. Yeah.
So it really, I would say the value of insurance, or the affordability of insurance really comes from what you've done in your life. That's really where your price will start to move and shake on you. And
if you don't have it, you really are. It's Russian roulette, right? I mean, especially the longer you are in business, the more likely it is that something is going to happen. Big or small, something is going to happen. And when it does, you're going to wish you had insurance if you don't.
Mm-hmm.
And now you're talking about, your livelihood, your dreams, all of that stuff can just be gone overnight.
Yeah, we actually had a claim in our office, and I can't talk about this. I won't say any names, but just a kitchen fire, and this happened last year. Just a kitchen fire, $250,000 claim because of the smoke, replacing the whole kitchen, hurt some of the foundation while I mean, you cannot imagine the catastrophic loss for a family like that. Say they didn't have the insurance we sold them. I mean, nobody, unless you're, Bill Gates, is going to be able to afford that kind of stuff. And insurance, even though you're paying for nothing, and that was hard air quotes by me right there. You are paying for that peace of mind. You are paying for that protection. And I mean, it saved this family's life. I know the mom of the family comes in and thanks us every day for it. It really is truly a lifesaver. And I've seen it just in my 8 months of people who are like, God, if I didn't have insurance, where the heck would I be right now?
Yeah. And the other thing that kind of goes along with it, like you were just describing a kitchen fire. And I think what a lot of people don't realize, unless they've been through it or have witnessed it firsthand, you might look at something and go, well, what are you talking about? It was a little kitchen fire. There's some smoke marks up the ceiling or up the wall. I can just paint over that. And what you don't understand is what else has gone on in an event like that, especially, if there are fire hoses involved. Now you've got water damage and it may not always be visible. You have mold potential from the water that was used to put out the fire, and it can really rack up, both in terms of dollars and in damage very, very rapidly from a seemingly small event.
Big thing in that specific case, smoke damage.
Yeah.
Nobody thinks, I mean, you never get that
and it's everything.
out of your
it
stuff.
Permeates everything.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
It permeates every article of anything you have in your house.
Including electronics.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So I probably a lot of our listeners don't know this, but there are actually services out there that will clean your electronics that have been smoke damaged, and the entire industry that does that. So.
that's actually that's what we did. Is we sent all their clothes and all their items and to just this one joint that just cranks them all through and gets the smoke smell out. So.
Yep. Well, hey. Earlier today, when we were exchanging texts, I asked if you would come prepared with some points that you definitely wanted to make sure we covered. So let me ask if we've covered them, if there are any other major points or topics you'd like to discuss while we're here.
We didn't really talk a ton about like building coverage and things like that. And most businesses, when you're starting a business and looking for buildings and things like that, one of the biggest things we hear from business owners that they didn't know is, well, why the heck am I covering this building? That doesn't make any sense. I don't own the building. Mm-hmm. And what landlords can tell you is tough noogies. If you won't buy it and cover the insurance, I'll find somebody who will. So that's definitely something you're going to want to make sure when you start to look for locations and things like that. That was another big thing we see in the office a lot. So
even when you don't own the building, if you are leasing the space for your business, you need to get...
Well, it depends on your landlord. Okay. Sometimes the landlord, likes to cover their own building. Mm-hmm. They like to pay their own insurance and make sure they know what it covers and stuff like that. But there are times where landlords will be like, no, you have to get this insurance with this amount of coverage and I have to see it, and that's part of the gig for leasing my building. And we see it all the time, and people are like, that doesn't make any sense. But, that is one of the things that landlords are allowed to do. So it's definitely something you're going to want to look out for when you're starting a business, looking at that beginning stage.
Okay.
That was my only thing we didn't touch on.
I do have one other quick question. Is there any kind of different considerations that business owners ought to take into account for building versus contents of the building?
Yeah, building and contents and liability will more than likely, if you're buying through me, be in the same policy. And it's just in that way, it's just like house policy. Okay, how much is the building worth? How much crap do you got in it? Is there anything, depending on who the insurer is, over $1,000 or $2,000 that you'd like to schedule? And that's where we're at. So it's that part of it is very similar to any insurance you'd buy on a home.
Okay. Last question related to this topic then. It's a quick one. How about, let's say I have an event. It shuts down my business for, let's say, a month. Is my lost revenue covered, or can it be? So
it can be. That is called loss of use coverage. And it covers pretty much exactly what John said. Say, here's a perfect example. A car runs into a grocery store, hits their dairy section, their entire freezers are out for a week. Their loss of use coverage picks up the product that they've lost, picks up the money that they could have gained from that product. And that's where your loss of use comes in. His insurance, whoever hits the grocery store in this example, will cover for the property he damaged, but he doesn't have to cover your products in your business. That's on you. So that's the kind of coverage you'd want to ask and look for, if you want to cover that kind of thing.
All right. Good deal. So we got liability, building, content, and equipment, inventory, and loss of use covers a lot of that. So
right. Plus that professional liability for businesses, and business owners that are making a lot of, and I kind of call them intangible decisions, where you can be blamed for a decision or certain information or things like that aren't like, I broke somebody's, garage or something like that.
Yeah. All right. Good. Well, folks listening, I hope you learned a little something here. Take insurance seriously. Like I said, an insurance agent ought to be part of your team. So if you don't have one, get out there and get one. And speaking of getting one, Camden, where can folks find you?
Yeah. So, you can call our number, 937-653-4660. That is Martin Insurance's number. Like I said, I can sell anything and everything you want. And I do a pretty good job of saving people money, too. Just ask my friends.
Well, there you go. All right. Well, hey, thanks, Camden, for being on the show. Appreciate it. Good to have you back.
Anytime.
All right. Everyone else, you can listen to TrueChat podcasts on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Stitcher, and anywhere that fine podcasts are found. For Business is Art on TrueChat, I'm your host, John Umstead. Thank you very much for tuning in. My guest has been
Camden Pierce.
Thanks again, Camden. Thank you all for listening. See you next time. Be the change.